Now, in clarifying the criteria for a good argument, it'll be helpful to make quite clear what we're talking about when we're talking about logic, or a logically strong connection between the premises and the conclusion. And there's actually a term in philosophy and in logic for that. Namely, it's something that we call, or we say, the argument or the inference is valid. So valid just means that the logic is good, or there's a logically strong connection between the premises and the conclusion. And it'll be worthwhile defining exactly what this means, because it'll help us in applying the criteria, or this particular, the logical criteria, to arguments. Now, a good definition of valid is the following one. That is, an argument is valid just in case it's impossible for its premises to be true and its conclusion false. Now, keep in mind, remember, we're always talking about the logical connection. An argument's being valid doesn't mean that the premises are true. It doesn't mean that the conclusion is true. It means just that it's impossible for the premises to be true, and at the same time the conclusion is false. It's conditional. That is, it's saying if the premises are true, then the conclusion is true. It's not saying that the premises actually are true. Now notice, a critical part of defining what a valid argument is, what the logically strong connection is this notion of something's being impossible. And we talk about logical impossibility. So when we're saying that it's impossible for the premises to be true and the conclusion false, we're saying it's logically impossible to have, for that argument, to have true premises and a false conclusion, if the inference is valid. So it'll be helpful to explain what we mean by logically impossible, and one way of understanding it, in a good way, is something that's logically impossible is self-contradictory. That is, something that's impossible from the standpoint of logic contradicts itself. And I think we'll turn to a few examples to help clarify this, because I think it's going to help clarify our notion of a valid argument.